From New York, right? Or from Belize? Your mom, is she coming from Belize or from New York? Okay, I didn't know that.
She coming here? Or does she
Yeah,
come?
sometimes she goes to New York first, because they have family there, and then she'll come here, but direct from Belize, okay. Oh, it's more expensive to go to New York, so she comes.
That makes sense. Yeah.
I have to see them. Yes, she's better, yeah. Sonia,
Oh.
remember her name?
Thank you.
Sonia.
Thank you.
Well, it's about time. Did you notice that Patrick derived his lesson for the bulletin from the book of First Chronicles?
Yes, I did.
So,
I said, watch
kind
the
of,
flag.
We're studying Chronicles, but Patrick also was looking at that.
I'm gonna be able to talk.
We're transients and strangers. Anyway, we've moved forward to Second Chronicles, and we're looking at some of the kings that are listed there, because we get some information in Chronicles that we don't get in First Kings, First and Second Kings. And so we talked last week about King Asa, who's a long reigning man, 41 years as I recall, did some good, but at the end had some problems. He relied on the human alliances, and then when he had some problems, health problems, he didn't go to God. And that's what we see in several cases. We see men who are described as good kings, and yet when it comes time to deal with foreign enemies, sometimes they get rid of all of the valuable stuff in the temple to bribe somebody. Sometimes they make foreign alliances that are not advisable. And so it kind of reinforces that aphorism: power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. And it's rare that that doesn't happen to some degree to a person who's elevated to the rank of king or president or czar or whatever we might have, prime minister. It's hard to avoid temptation and corruption to some extent. It's hard to just rely upon God.
So how would you relate that to countries? I mean, that was a God nation.
Yeah.
So how do you relate it to secular?
Well, I mean, clearly, those in power, as well as all of us, should humble themselves before God and seek His will and seek to that.
So if you find an ally that has the same goal, that's ideal.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I mean, it's just obviously we have allies, right?
Well, you never know.
I know, you never know.
We could talk a lot about that right now, given what the war that we're involved in.
It was such a special situation, isn't it? A special, or should Israel ever have an ally now? You know.
Yeah, that's a tough thing too, because Israel, although there are a lot of Christians who feel that the reinstatement of Israel as a nation in 1948 was something that was willed by God. I think what the scriptures teach us is there is no more Jew and Gentile. All are the same before God. All are responsible for serving Jesus Christ. And so tough to say. A group of people that has been persecuted historically, there's a need for concern. Anyway, why don't anybody else have going on and on? Well, we'll go on to 2 Chronicles then. And the next fellow we run into is named Jehoshaphat. And he's kind of famous because of his funny name. But anyway, we don't hear much about it in Kings, but here we get some details. So that's the question. What details of the reign of Jehoshaphat are revealed in Chronicles? And so we're in 2 Chronicles, chapter 17, 18, and it goes on. He's got a lot of chapters about him. Good or bad?
It was good.
Yeah. It says in chapter 17, verse 3, the Lord was with Jehoshaphat because in his early years he walked in the ways of his father David, the ways his father David had followed. He did not consult the Baals, but sought the God of his father and followed his commands rather than the practices of Israel, the northern kingdom. And the Lord established the kingdom under his control, and all Judah brought gifts to Jehoshaphat. So he was a popular fellow, so that he had great wealth and honor. That's the way that some of the rulers of today accumulate wealth and honor. People bring him gifts. That's the Chicago way, some would say. Anyway, his heart was devoted to the ways of the Lord. Furthermore, he removed the high places and the Asherah poles from Judah, which is a big step, because a lot of times they'll say he was a good king, but he never got around to removing the high places and the Asherah poles. And so, anything else that we know about Jehoshaphat?
We sent teachers out there to teach the people throughout.
Okay. In the 3rd year of his reign, he sent his officials and to teach in the towns of Judah with some Levites. So he was interested in teaching about the Lord. And so he was good. In chapter 18, we find one of the more interesting events in his life. He was the king of the northern kingdom at this time was named Ahab, and he was not a follower of Jehovah. And anyway, Jehoshaphat visited Ahab, and Ahab wanted him to go with him to war. And so Jehoshaphat said, we're all the same people, but he said, first seek counsel of the Lord, which was wise. That you talk about what should our leaders today do? First seek counsel of the Lord. I wonder if any do that. No.
No.
I suspect you're right. But anyway.
I think Jehoshaphat is good in a sense. He restored the Lord glory to the people. He led the nation. Even he sanitized the system. For him, even changing the judges, the corrupt judges in the system, then he changed all of them. Please, because when we are learning from Jerusalem, that means today, if let's put it in a government system today in a political way, when a certain government comes and he wants to do the right thing and thinking that there is a corruption in the system, the most people who make the corruption go wrong a lot is the judges. Because wherever there's the authority get hand of those people, send them to the judges. They don't get them well. Corruption carry on because they will leave them.
Yeah,
They will grab them and they will leave them and come and do whatever they were doing. Jehoshaphat move all the adults from the system. Horrible thing God don't want in our life is bow down to another thing beyond Him, or thinking that this thing is a represented God in our life.
yeah,
Idol. So he tried his best to move all those things from the system. So you can see how he moved the nation back to God and put in the Lord's hands for him to handle. So that's bringing me the question today, if a government come and say that because of what is going on in the country, I want to change all these judges and put in another judges.
yeah,
Will the country allow, will the system today allow that to happen?
that's it.
No. There are too many people who have a stake in the system working the way that it does. There are people who benefit from that. And so if they benefit from that, then what's their incentive to do the right thing? They're not doing it. You always have good people. There are always pockets of good people, but unfortunately, by and large, the system is set up not to work that way.
But they think they're good too.
You know what? Some of
Just
them don't
saying.
think. Some of them don't think that they're good. Some of them know that they're corrupt and they don't mind.
It works for
It feels good for us.
them. Okay.
They
Yeah,
might try to pretend, but they know.
you wonder if the consciences of some people ever bother them. But I guess we need to answer for ourselves more than worrying about,
But you know what? We should
The
know them
older
by
men.
their fruit. So I'm judging by the fruit.
yeah,
So
that's right.
then we actually can make, a reasoned judgment.
Yeah.
What's the fruit?
Yeah. Anyway, I just wanted to say a few more words about chapter 18 here.
So Wayne wants to know, how did that go? So that he went to God, but Ahab wouldn't go to God.
Well, that's not true, because Ahab says, well, I've got some prophets. In fact, he had 400 and asked them, shall we go to war? And they said, go, for God will give it into the king's hand. But Jehoshaphat said, is there not a prophet of the Lord here? So he recognized these 400 guys that Ahab brought out were not necessarily true prophets of the Lord. So, but Ahab had a lot of yes men around. Anyway, so what does Ahab say? It says, there still is one man through whom we can inquire of the Lord. But I hate him because he never prophesies anything good about me, but always bad. Micaiah, son of Imlah. And the king should not say that. Jehoshaphat replied. Anyway, they called Micaiah. And the king asked him, should we go to war? And all the other prophets were prophesying. And what does he say?
Shut them down.
Shall we go to war? Micaiah says, attack and be victorious. Verse 14, I'm saying. But the king says, how many times must I make you swear to tell me nothing but the truth? in the name of the Lord. Micaiah, you'd love to hear the tone of voice of Micaiah. He says, yeah, go ahead. The Lord will be with you. But Ahab recognizes he's not telling the real truth. He's just kind of
Sarcastic.
making fun of the situation. But then Micaiah answered, I saw all Israel scattered on the hills like sheep without a shepherd. And the Lord said, these people have no master. Let each one go home in peace. In other words, the king's going to get killed if he goes to war. And Ahab says, didn't I tell you that he never prophesies anything good about me, but only bad? And here's one of the times in scripture where it looks like the separation between the spiritual realm and the earthly realm is taken away. Micaiah continued, therefore, hear the word of the Lord. I saw the Lord sitting on his throne with all the host of heaven standing on his right and on his left. And the Lord said, who will entice Ahab, king of Israel, into attacking Ramoth Gilead and going to his death there? One suggested this and another that. Finally, a spirit came forward, stood before the Lord and said, I will entice him. By what means, the Lord asked? I will go and be a lying spirit in the mouths of all his prophets. He said, you will succeed in enticing him, said the Lord. Go and do it. Now the Lord has put a lying spirit in the mouths of these prophets. What do you think of that? Quite a conversation, isn't it?
Yeah.
It looks like the Lord is bringing this about. Is that good? Is that bad? What's going on?
Those are things in the system today. You have this, let's bring it down like you have 100 churches today gathered together, but maybe one of them will stand to the truth of God.
Yeah,
People will not listen to him.
yeah,
People will not listen to him.
yeah,
No. Because all that he is saying is the doctrine. And they don't buy by that. But rather fortune will tell them for them to be happy that this is what is going on, this is what is going to happen. And that's what they want. And that's what all of them will listen. So you will be alone in that side. So
do you think the Lord ever allows or sends a lying spirit among some people that make decisions and, go to war? You'll achieve something. Or in some other area.
Allow Satan to.
influence.
Well, is that
Is
the
that-
lying spirit? Is that Satan here?
God doesn't lie, is
Okay.
the thing. So it just seems
I will entice him.
out of character.
I will go and be a lying spirit among the prophets.
No way, he tells him the truth and it makes no difference. These people are lying to you, but Ahab doesn't care.
Okay,
I guess only a man who could know that Micaiah spoke from God and ignored him anyway could believe prophets he knew were lying to him. It's kind of the same thing.
Yeah. It seems that Ahab is, he's kind of got his mind made up. And this
See,
is,
this is what he wanted to hear. He wanted to hear that.
yeah,
And so, God just perpetuated that by having all these other people tell him what he wanted to hear, because he wouldn't listen to God. He's not listening to God, so he's listening to what he wanted to hear.
right. God is just, in a sense, allowing him to do what he wants to do.
Yeah.
I think there's a connection in the New Testament. where it's saying that if you go to speak to someone, they will not receive your words.
Yeah.
You kick the dust off your feet
Well,
and keep it moving, because they're not gonna listen anyway.
yeah. You can't spend all your time
No.
trying to reach someone who just will not respond. Go and take your message elsewhere. I just, as I read this, I just wondered if something like that may have been going on at the time of Pharaoh, where it says Pharaoh's heart was hardened, and then finally God hardened Pharaoh's heart. And how does that happen? Is that a Pharaoh who wants to do the right thing, but God won't let him? No, it's a Pharaoh who wants to do the wrong thing, and God lets him do it, in a sense. Places him in a situation where he knows that he's gonna choose the wrong path. Anyway, Jehoshaphat was there. They did go to war. Ahab got killed. Jehoshaphat survived. And anyway,
He doesn't seem too bright either.
what's that?
Why would he go to war knowing that it wasn't going to end well? Well, he also seems
The king
kind of
of Israel.
stupid too, because of Ahab's scheme that he would go in disguise and Jehoshaphat wouldn't.
Yeah, there's another smart, the king of Israel. I will enter the battle in disguise, but you wear your royal robes. I wonder what these guys are thinking. You know, who are they? Where's the enemy gonna focus its attention? But the king of Aram, do not fight with anyone small or great, except the king of Israel. When they saw Jehoshaphat, they thought, this is the king of Israel. They turned to attack him, but Jehoshaphat cried out, and the Lord helped him. God drew them away from him. For when the chariot commanders saw that he was not the king of Israel, they stopped pursuing him.
It was a good
But
time to pray.
that's, what's that?
It was a good time to pray.
Yeah, that's, Jehoshaphat cried out, and the Lord helped him.
Right, this cycle, Jehoshaphat to do, you requested to see the prophet of God. And he came to tell you what is going to happen if you going to happen. But still, he proceed. He proceed. Then why do you consult him? Why do you consult him?
You know, I think that's human nature. Haven't you had someone ask you for advice? You ask them for it, they come to you with a situation, you give them advice, they don't take it. They get deeper into whatever the situation is, they come back. You give them, see, they're hoping that you're going to tell them whatever it is they want to hear. What's going to sound good to them, they're hoping.
Exactly. I have things that I want to hear is what he heard from the 400 prophets who told him that go to the war, you are going to succeed. But the way Jehoshaphat stand tall and said, I want to hear from you. The Lord appointed prophets. And Micaiah told him that this is what is going to happen. Then I always bring the things from there to the system we have in our reign today. It's a president is in power, and then he has people who don't agree to his, what he wants to do.
Yeah.
He always
Take
tell
them to
them, that's it. You see, so everything that he decides to do, the people around him always support him to do that.
Yeah.
Either the thing will be destroying the country or bring harm to the country. They don't care. They will support him to do that.
Anyway, my thought on Jehoshaphat there is he's right in the middle of a battle and their enemy is after him. Maybe I better pray about this, But it illustrates, some people might say, well, I've got myself into this. It's just no use.
Yeah.
But the point is there's always a blessing in prayer, and we can go to God in prayer even at the most extreme time. Whether we're sick or whether we're, being caught having done something wrong. It's never too late to pray to God, is what I'm trying to say. No matter what we've done, we may have not prayed for a long time. We may have overlooked that, but it's never too late to pray to God. So that's one of the reasons why Jehoshaphat is noted as a good king. Chapter 20, a long discussion about how he defeats the Moabites and the Ammonites, and then the end of his reign. All of this in 25 years. He walked in the ways of his father Asa and did not stray from them. So he's, they say some pretty nice things about him. But still, there's some high places that doesn't get rid of. And later, he made an alliance with Ahaziah, king of Israel, who was guilty of wickedness. So there's politics entering into it again, isn't it? He agreed with him to construct a fleet of trading ships. After these were built at Ezion Geber, Eliezer, son of Dodavahu, prophesied against Jehoshaphat. Because you've made an alliance with Ahaziah, the Lord will destroy what you have made. The ships were wrecked and were not able to set sail to trade. So anyway.
He wore his king robes and he still didn't get hit. That's interesting.
Yeah, the Lord
You think that would
drew the enemy away from him. So anyway, that's Jehoshaphat. Remember it would for good, mostly. Who's next? Joash. This is chapter 24. Athaliah, a lady, usurps power, but Joash and tries to destroy the royal line. But Joash is preserved, and finally, Athaliah is ousted, and through the through the work of Jehoiada the priest, and he wants the king's son to reign. So Joash comes to power at age 7. So kind of a young age. What would you say? We call it a regency, with the priest undoubtedly kind of ruling on behalf of Joash. And he's one of the that they talk about at Sunday school, the younger grade, because he came to power when he was 7 years old. Mm-hmm. How'd you like to be king at age 7? I wouldn't have the slightest idea. Anyway, what about Joash? Good or bad?
Starts off good, winds up bad.
It started off very good. He repairs the temple and restores it until he gets rid of the Athaliah people. After the death of Jehoiada, after the death of this king who's kind of guided him, and really he's responsible for Joash being on the throne. So you'd think that he would be thankful and follow in his ways, but he doesn't. And
lost his accountability. The priest held him accountable, and you know, but nobody, after the priest dead, nobody held the king accountable, nobody was around to hold him accountable.
That's a good point. The priest is able to perhaps, because of, he's brought him up to help make him feel guilty, but what does he get? The officials of Judah came and paid homage to the king, and he listened to them. They abandoned the temple of the Lord, worshipped Asherah poles and idols. Because of their guilt, God's anger came upon Judah and Jerusalem. Although the Lord sent prophets to the people to bring them back to him, and though they testified against them, they would not listen, perhaps because of the king. He surrounds himself with the yes men, and that's why power corrupts, because you don't have somebody to stand up and say, no, you're doing the wrong thing. You shouldn't do this. You should follow the Lord. He doesn't want to hear those. And so here in verse 20, the Spirit of God came upon Zechariah, the son of Jehoiada the priest. He stood before the people and said, this is what God says. Why do you disobey the Lord's commands? You will not prosper. Because you've forsaken the Lord, he has forsaken you. But they plotted against him, and by order of the king, they stoned him to death in the courtyard of the Lord's temple. King Joash did not remember the kindness of Zechariah, his father, Jehoiada, but killed his son, who said as he lay dying, may the Lord see this and call you to account. So unfortunately, Joash's reign does not end good. What else do we know about Zechariah? Anything? Well, turn to Matthew 23:35. You remember that? Jesus is talking. Yes. I got the right page. In verse 33, this is Jesus addressing, as Patrick pointed out. Matthew has some sermons. So here's, in effect, another sermon of Jesus. We think of a sermon on the Mount. Here's another, talking to the Pharisees. You snakes, you brood of vipers, how will you escape being condemned to hell? Can't be much more direct than that. Therefore, I'm sending you prophets and wise men and teachers. Some of them you will kill and crucify. Others you will flog in your synagogues and pursue from town to town. And so upon you will come all the righteous blood that has been shed on earth, from the blood of Abel to the blood of Zechariah, from A to Z. But here it's Zechariah, son of Berechiah, whom you murdered between the temple and the altar. I tell you the truth, all this will come upon this generation. What's going on? Something is wrong there, because Zechariah in 2 Chronicles is described as the son of Jehoiada. Now, maybe
More than one. Is there more than one?
it's possible both killed in the courtyard.
Oh.
The prophet Zechariah has a book in the Old Testament, and he's described as the son of Berechiah. Could it be that a scribe got mixed up and he put down Zechariah, and instead of Jehoiada, he put Berechiah because he's thinking of the prophet? Anyway, whatever it is, Jesus mentions Zechariah and the fact that he's put to death and murdered between the temple and the altar. as is said in Second Chronicles. So it's one of the problem passages of the scripture.
Where?
Maybe Zechariah, maybe Jehoiada's son was Berechiah, and Zechariah was Jehoiada's grandson. We don't know. Anyway,
King Berechiah was the mother of that.
what's that?
Maybe one was the mother.
Well,
Just
could
saying.
be. Maybe Berechiah was the lady.
Occasionally they-
Anyway.
Or maybe he just changed his name. There are a couple instances where people's name changed.
Yeah,
Saul became Paul, Abram became Abraham.
And they've got multiple names.
Right,
Yeah,
mhm, so,
Middle name.
yeah, yeah.
interesting that Jesus so vividly describes the continuation of the persecution of those whom God sends, prophets. He says, you'll persecute, chase them, and drag them out of the synagogues. Of course, he himself was crucified, and so many of his followers were persecuted, the apostles. Tradition says that they were all put to death for doing good, with the exception of John. But anyway, that's Joash. So we don't remember him for good, really, in spite of the fact that he came at age 7. Uzziah comes in chapter 26. He reigned a long time. He was 16 years old when he became king. He reigned in Jerusalem for 52 years. Here they get named the mother, Jechaliah. She was from Jerusalem. He did what was right in the eyes of the Lord, just as his father Amaziah had done. He who instructed him in the fear of God. As long as he sought the Lord, God gave him success. But, like so many of the kings, there's a but. What happened to King Uzziah?
Pride.
Pride.
All this
Yeah,
power and accomplishments, prideful, forgot,
power corrupts.
forgot who helped you accomplish all these things.
Verse 16, after Uzziah became powerful, his pride led to his downfall. He was unfaithful to the Lord his God and entered the temple of the Lord to burn incense on the altar of incense. Azariah the priest, with 80 other courageous priests of the Lord, followed him in. They confronted him and said, it appertaineth not unto thee, O king. That's the way it's phrased in the old version. It is not right for you, Uzziah, to burn incense to the Lord. That is for the priests. And what happened? Uzziah, who had a censer in his hand, ready to burn incense, became angry while he was raging at the priests. So he doesn't respond with humility. In their presence, before the incense altar of the Lord's temple, leprosy broke out on his forehead. And they looked at him, they saw that he had leprosy, so they hurried him out. And he had to live in a separate house because he was a leper, and his son served as a kind of a regent for part of those 52 years. Did you ever see leprosy break out? Michelle is the leprosy expert
Well, no.
for the Midwest area. Probably beyond that.
I have the only clinic. It's the only clinic that's
How many
been-
patients do you have for leprosy?
You know, we receive 4 to 6 or 7 every month.
No?
Some are repeats though, you know,
Okay.
so with new patients, seems like 1 or 2 a year get referred in. We're only one of 13 clinics in the country.
and how is it so contagious? Like, how is
It's not
that?
that, it's not that,
So how,
it's treatable. So, but God can.
The
strike
question
them.
is-
No,
is-
with that.
is what they call Hansen's disease today the same thing as the leprosy of the Bible? Because today you wouldn't see just leprosy break out on somebody's forehead or something. But of course, that's the Lord causing that. Jesus healed so many with leprosy. It was a serious thing at the time because if you were cured, it was more of a lot of religious thing. If you were cured, you had to show yourself to the priests, and they made the final decision whether you could be added to the community. So it was a dread disease.
It's still.
Maybe it still is.
I mean, it's still,
So they had leper colonies, but if it's not really contagious,
well,
why?
it is, about 5% of people are susceptible.
Okay,
And they're not even, they think it's probably respiratory, but most of the time, people in the family don't get it. So you don't know how you get it. It's always, how do I get this?
So the old
Yeah, they always ask.
adage, if you sleep in a leper's bed, but probably
I mean,
not.
I touch them all the time, but they're on treatment. They're still, it's like,
So it's not just treatments, there is no cure.
there's cure now. I mean, there's pretty much UN treatment now. That wasn't when I was a young doctor, there were people that with many bacteria that had to be on lifetime treatment, but there is now about a 24-month. If you don't have any of these immune reactions, those are some of the hardest parts to control. They're done. I've had people go out. Yeah, I've only been doing this like 3.5 years since the expert retired, and there's nobody come along. So that's how it happened. I don't have any special.
So some of the symptoms when they like,
Oh yeah,
they wake up in the bed and leave the leg or arm on the bed.
no,
You
no,
know, that's not a symptom. That's, I used to hear about it.
bones can resorb
Oh,
until the fingers shrink up, and it's a long-term nerve damage. I mean, it doesn't just. God can make it happen. But I mean,
yeah.
I haven't seen that. I've where have I been? Just
You
Chicago.
wonder if that happened
Yeah.
to the lepers in the Bible who had to kind of live away from the.
It's not,
other
it's not it doesn't kill you usually, cause a lot of problems, but you live a long time with it.
Yeah.
so how would they identify it? It's like a visual, you could look at someone and tell them to have it?
Back then,
Right,
we biopsy.
well, I know, but I always pictured it, I don't know, as like a weird rash or something, like you could.
You can do a lot of things.
So that you could see it, so because they don't have medical testing, so how would they know to
Back
separate you?
then,
What they,
yeah, well,
they had, the priest made the final
Yeah,
decision.
like the doctor.
so there's leprosy of houses, leprosy of other things too, so
Yeah.
it seems like there was some different dimension to it,
Okay.
but yeah, at our annual meetings, you can go to a course that the Jewish doctors will teach on leprosy in the Bible.
Oh.
Oh,
But there's confusion about psoriasis versus leprosy. So some of the white is whiter than snow and all that. You can have a white, it's not, most of what I see is not the white one. It's not white, it's like lighter than normal, but it's not white like the leper shirt. So I don't know what it all was. Most of what I see are people of color who have reddish to purple to dark. Darker, redder than normal, but not so. Talking about leprosy. Maybe it was different.
Anyway.
Maybe the same, and maybe it was different in the Bible. These sure happened quick when God did it,
yes.
and then couldn't
that's
cure
right.
it in
And it could be cured immediately too. Miriam got leprosy and then was cured.
Yeah.
Of course, Jesus cured many, many people of leprosy. Must have been a fairly common thing. Anyway, that's a bonus lesson since we had the expert. Well, maybe that's a good place to call it. We've got a couple more kings, and then we'll move on to Ezra. So let me pass out there. Okay. Here's some questions about the book of Ezra. And we'll talk about that. I'm hoping to get to that next time, sure.
Oh, okay, so thanks to me.
Ezra is a shorter book. If you have a chance, go ahead and read the book of Ezra. You don't have to, it's shorter than it looks in that the list of names and numbers, you could probably go through pretty fast. But excluding all of that, what's Ezra all about? It's an issue.
I always skip Ezra, I always think of Nehemiah. I don't know why, in my head, I speak of.
Actually, it's so amazing that, I mean, just look at the first part this morning.
That's
The king of Persia said, here, we'll give you support, go back, go to Jerusalem, I'm giving you gold, silver. What? There's such a turnaround from when they were taken away.
the Lord moved his heart.
Yeah.
Yes.
Cyrus, king of Persia. So
You still have a copy of the Ezra?
Yeah, we didn't get it on this side.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We only had 3.
Okay.
How many do you need over there?
So, 3,
Okay, so
Michael needs 1, you need 1?
No, I got one. I got one.
is that 2 or 3 there?
There's 1 here,
Who else?
we need 1.
I'll give you a copy.
Oh, here, I've got plenty.
Okay.
So. Okay, thank you. And you,
Sorry, no, those questions are contained, so it's good point.
Yeah. See, I wasn't assuming that's why that they weren't in a colony because it was contagious disease. That was just my assumption. You know, otherwise, what different.
Yeah,
you
because
know.
they didn't have anything to deal with.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah. But, you know, even then, I mean, there are other things they could, you know, and they didn't.
They're
cast
true.
them aside.
Maybe, yeah.
So that's, right, so that's why I thought like, oh, it must be contagious or something. I thought that was what the danger was, but, you know.
But it's not as much as Strephon, probably.
Yeah, okay.
It's so difficult. I had 2 new patients in the last few months, so we only meet once a month. So I'm kind of, but one guy, really nice, he's 25, he's from India, he moved from India when he was 14. He has this terrible wasting. So we have to